Okay, so what does discourse look like and sound like? That's our first section for today's. So you'll see these icons to support us in collaborating and reflecting. The little thought bubble is thinking to yourself. You'll see the little chat, the little speech bubble for us to chat. This is not the ideal situation to talk about discourse. It would be much better if we were in person and able to talk with each other. But there are things that we'll do today that will mimic what you would be doing in the classroom with your students. So we'll still find ways to do discourse. It will look slightly different because we are online. So before we do anything, let's talk about, what is mathematical discourse. And found this graphic that really kind of shows it. It's that flow of information between people who are trying to make sense. You'll see students in there, you'll see groups in there, you'll see teachers, because we're trying to make sense of what our students are saying too. And so it's this back and forth flow of information. So before we do anything, I'm going to ask you to think about this as you watch this video clip. What words would describe the discourse that's happening in this class? You may have seen this from Ferris Bueller. It's Ferris Bueller's Day Off, but if you haven't, here's a good chance to look at it again. Again, what describes the discourse? How would you describe the discourse happening in this classroom?
In 1930, the Republican-controlled House of Representatives, in an effort to alleviate the effects of the, anyone? The Great Depression, passed the, anyone? A tariff bill, the Hawley-Smoot Tariff Act, which, anyone, raised or lowered? Raised tariffs in an effort to collect more revenue for the federal government. Did it work? Anyone? Anyone know the effects? It did not work, and the United States sank deeper into the Great Depression. Today, we have a similar debate over this. Anyone know what this is, class? Anyone? Anyone seen this before? The Laffer curve. Anyone know what this says? It says that at this point on the revenue curve, you will get exactly the same amount of revenue as at this point. This is very controversial. Does anyone know what Vice President Bush called this in 1980? Anyone? Something DOO economics. Voodoo economics. In 1930,
So, how would you describe the discourse that was happening in that video clip? You might want to use these sentence frames. I described the discourse as blank, or the discourse was blank. Once you're done thinking, I'm going to ask you to type your response in the chat, but wait for my signal before you hit enter so that all of our responses will appear as a waterfall. So consider this the independent think time. The talk time is when we all hit enter and we'll see all of our responses appear. Go ahead and hit enter now, and we'll see all of our responses appear. It was hard not to laugh when we're watching that, right? non-existent discourse, not engaging, not interactive, not enough time to respond. Questions were not open-ended. So yes, non-existent discourse is how I would describe that too. Um, Unengaging, teacher-centered. Okay, so kind of, this was me anticipating what you would say. No evidence of discourse. The teacher did all the talking. He asked very low DOK questions, and very low engagement. Um, the idea about not enough wait time, that was really important. If that was your response, would you mind unmuting and sharing more about what you mean?
In my experience, I mean, students need, especially the young ones, need a lot of wait time to feel comfortable responding, or they're afraid to be wrong or what have you. So you've got to, it's really tough for me, but to just wait quietly and try to tease it out of them.
He waited half a second, maybe, after his question, right? You know, um, and it's super important. That wait time feels really awkward, but we need time to think. And kids need time to think. If we're asking a question that's worthwhile, we have to give them time. We're not asking super duper easy questions that they can answer in 2 seconds. We want more, we want better responses. We need to wait for them, definitely. So we're going to watch a different clip now. And how would you describe the discourse that's happening in this classroom?
Step. I see 3 different strategies here, and I'm sure we can come up. I know you guys are awesome at this, but I'm going to move on from this because I want you to think about this question. Do you feel like these are pretty efficient strategies? Do you agree with that? Okay. What do I mean when I say efficient?
Agreeing, disagreeing. This means you have an answer. This means you have more than one. Still thinking and still thinking. To get the answer to the problem.
Okay. Can anybody build on Caroline's answer? Colton.
I would like to build on Caroline's idea by saying it's not just that, it's precise.
Okay.
Very precise.
All right. And what does that mean? We kind of need to know what precise means when we're using it, right, Carter?
Exact.
It means exact, okay? So they know that they can't just say yes or no, that is always going to be followed by, I think that because. They know that. You know, so I'm asking a lot of them, but they really understand it's a safe environment and that, you know, they're not going to be made fun of in this place, and this is some place they can be themselves and think deep thoughts.
Yeah, each have 4 legs. Yeah, except the bird, they have 2. Yeah, maybe they don't understand it because maybe they don't. Maybe they don't understand the B and the C and the D. Maybe they.
Step. I see.
So, how would you describe the discourse that was happening in that second video clip? Feel free to use the sentence stems. I described the discourse as blank. The discourse was blank. Go ahead and type your response in the chat. I'll give you time to finish typing. Go ahead and hit enter when you're done, and we'll see all the responses appear. Discourse was interactive, students were engaged, supporting their thinking with reasoning, scaffolded with sentence frames. So some guidance by the teacher, but a lot of student thinking and reasoning was evident. So those were second graders in that classroom. And yes, we definitely saw some of those things that you have already mentioned. Students were listening to one another, they were building on, sharing their thinking, willing to try out new things, high student engagement. Pretty much every student was talking and listening also. So a really different vibe in that second classroom than in the first clip that we saw, even though the students were much younger. High school was the first example, and then it was second graders in that next one. So discourse moves. The question is how, right? How do we get kids to talk like those kids were talking? What structures and routines will promote discourse? So we're going to watch this video clip again, but for a slightly different purpose. Take a look at what routines already had to be in place in order for discourse to happen, either that you see in the classroom or things that are implied. Oh, the kids had to have done this before they got here. And the way we're going to do this,
Step.
the way we're going to do this is we're going to put you in breakout rooms. Okay. You will talk and type about the conditions that make discourse thrive. So if you're in breakout room 1, you're going to go find that slide that says breakout room 1 and start typing what you discuss in here. So I'm going to put in, let me show you, maybe make sure you have the link so you can open it before you go to the breakout room. So that is the link. And I'm going to move over here and say, okay, so we're going to watch the video together and then we'll go to the breakout room. But just again, this would be breakout room 1. And as a group, you all have editing rights to type in here. This is breakout room 2. This is breakout room 3. So can you show me either with the thumbs up or using we're blanking out, the Zoom tools on the bottom, that the directions are clear before we start the video. And I want to make sure that you've been able to access these slides before we get started too. So are you able to do that? Thumbs up, literally give me a thumbs up, or use the Zoom tools to show me that. Okay, so we'll watch the video together and then we'll go into our breakout room. So let me go back over here. Not letting me go backward, weird. Go backward. No, don't annotate. Just go backward on the slide. Okay, I'll have to go backward this way. Okay, let's watch this video and then we'll do a talk and do some typing in our breakout rooms.
Step. I see 3 different strategies here, and I'm sure we can come up, I know you guys are awesome at this, but I'm going to move on from this because I want you to think about this question. Do you feel like these are pretty efficient strategies? Yes. Do you agree with that? Okay. What do I mean when I say efficient?
Agreeing, disagreeing. This means you have an answer. This means you have more than one. Still thinking and still thinking. make this to get the answer to the problem.
Okay. Can anybody build on Caroline's answer? Colton?
I would like to build on Caroline's idea by saying it's not just that, it's precise.
Okay.
Very precise.
All right. And what does that mean? We kind of need to know what precise means when we're using it, right, Carter?
Exact.
It means exact, okay? So they know that they can't just say yes or no, that that is always going to be followed by, I think that because. They know that. So I'm asking a lot of them, but they really understand it's a safe environment and that, they're not going to be made fun of in this place, and this is some place they can be themselves and think deep thoughts.
Yeah, they each have 4 legs. Yeah, except the bird, they have 2. Yeah, maybe they don't understand it because maybe they don't. Maybe they don't understand the B and the C and the D. Maybe they.
So I'm going to open the breakout rooms. I'm going to ask if you're assigned room 1, don't go to room 1, stay here so that it will be part of the recording. Okay, so opening all rooms, you have the link to the breakout slides, and you can chat and type in on those slides in your breakout rooms. And about 5 minutes. So we are breakout room 1. I'm going to stop sharing so that we can take a look and do talk and share with the other slide. Okay, so we are breakout room 1.
Is it UNIT?
It was some other people too.
Okay, I don't know what happened to everybody.
Oh, you know what? They might have gone to 1. So maybe
They went to 1 instead of staying
they
here,
went
right?
to 1 instead of staying here.
That's yeah.
So I'm going to move them back out here.
Okay. I was like, what happened?
Those directions might not have been clear. Room 1, this is room 1.
I heard your directions. I understood them. So.
It might have been unclear. Hold on.
Gotcha.
And I'm going to see if there's friend, I'm going to move to room 3. Sorry, maybe I wasn't clear. If you're in room 1, I'm going to ask you not to go to room 1, but stay here in the main room so you can have something to record. Sorry about that. So what routines do you think had to be in place in order for everything to happen?
I loved the hand signals for student response. She obviously needed to think of those and teach them. And I'm sure it took a lot of time to review them and teach them and stop them when they're not using it, the shout outers and whatnot, and require them to use the hand signals. But I actually love that because then it makes those kids that are scared to share their answers, nobody's really seeing it but me.
I use those hand signals because I had taken the TLC of Number Talk several years ago. So ever since then, I've been using them. And I love it because, especially the one where the kids they're not seeing the same thing that whoever is talking at that time is saying. And I teach a K-1 this year, but even my kindergartners, if they don't agree, even if I know they have the answer wrong, so to speak, they will still share what they think. And I love it.
Right.
Yeah, it does work very well. And also what she said about the creating an environment in your classroom where the kids feel safe to share their thoughts.
Absolutely. Where that you value what is being shared, whether it's right or wrong, or just a different way to look at it, or what have you.
Yes.
With the hand signals, how long did it take you to be able to implement that where the students were using them consistently?
Good
Not
question.
long. It does not take long.
Okay.
They learn it pretty fast.
Awesome.
And are they good about using that? And again, not shouting out and forgetting to use them.
No, they're great.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's a great. I don't know
And
if I think there was a book that we used in the TLC number talks, but yeah,
I
I
think I
do
might
number
have
talks
one.
every day because just to get their mind ready to think about math before we start our lesson. So,
Yeah.
I love that idea. I'll make a note.
One hand signal I've seen people use um, to help with that blurting. Erin, is that your name, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
So she has them say it to your hand.
Oh,
that's
Like they
great.
literally talk,
into their
and
hand.
we know with IMSE they get to actually like they can kind of hear it, you
Yes.
know, but not everybody else does. And
Yeah, like whispered into your hand.
yeah,
Okay.
so that I've seen people do that. Um,
Okay. But again, the hand signals too, then there's those not only the tactile kids, they're getting that, but
Yes.
also, more and more you have, at least me personally, my students are fidgety and not sitting still, and at least it's giving them something to do with their fingers.
yeah,
Good point.
and they were answering with I have an answer, and I agree.
Uh-huh.
But we'll share in a little bit that there's another hand signal for add on.
Oh,
They literally add on. And so if they wanted to add on, like they could show you as a teacher, oh, that child wants to add on. I'm going to call on that child. Like
okay. Gotcha.
it's a great um, assessment for you. Like, oh, who wants to stop talk next? And
Right.
conversations going that way. So I
Okay.
haven't done a great job um, typing in everything that we said, but I started typing in a little bit. Take a look and see if there's anything you want to add to that.
Yes, and what routines are in place? She had the sentence starters, the stems, the speaking stems, starters. That I think that was really good for the kids. I always mean to do that, and then I oftentimes don't get around to it, but
Right.
I think
I
that's
think
important.
they were on, I think she's got a smart board. I think they
Yeah.
were on the smart board, like
They
right
were
on
like
top.
taped up at the top. Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's really visible. Thanks
Mm-hmm.
for reminding me that so we can add that. Okay, I'm going to close the room so we can go back and talk together. Okay. We're going to have people coming back soon. They're probably finishing up their conversation. The hardest thing about Zoom is you are stopped mid sentence, and it's probably usually a really good sentence, but hopefully they'll be able to share it back with us. Okay, looks like we've got everybody back from the room. I'm going to give you a moment to take a look at what the other room said, the room that you weren't in. We didn't have any, we had a couple, room two started to do stuff, and then I pulled you back to put you in room one for the recording. So take a look at room one and room three and see if any group shared anything different that you didn't have in your conversations. Breakout room three. If you don't mind, I'm going to have someone share. You had something that our group didn't talk about, predetermined student groupings for collaborative conversations. Would you mind sharing that?
Think that was Morgan's idea.
I just noticed the kids already knew who to talk to and where to go. So clearly that has already been established by their teacher. So they know who they're supposed to be grouped with.
Yes, thank you. I forgot to share the slide so we can see some of those things that you mentioned. Both the groups definitely talked about community-centered norms were established. Kids knew that they wanted to, that this is a safe place, that they can share. And everybody had a job to do, whether it's you, the listener, or you, the speaker. It's really clear that everyone has a role to play. So thank you. We are going to, there's another video that we can watch, another very short clip that we're going to watch right now. Let me see. Okay. And let me just go back really quickly to what you mentioned about those hand signals. This idea of I have an answer. Like I know Ellen was mentioning that, yeah, we have these signals during a number talk, but you notice they can do it anytime. Here's another great hand signal, I repeat. And repeating is really good because if there's a great kernel nugget that you want kids to remember, having someone else repeat another student's response is really important because they can repeat it and you've got accountability. Listening is just as important as when it's your turn to speak. Let's see, I agree. We've seen this a lot, me too, kind of thing. And then there's another one that is in that document of the talk moves, to add on. I want to add on. And our group was sharing that if somebody is giving you this signal, you as a teacher get a good idea. Oh, that student wants to add on. Let's make sure that we have that student share. And so they can tell us, hey, I really want to talk without blurting out, but also being really involved in speaking. But because, we talk with our hands, I'm doing that right now. And so giving us another modality for us to communicate is super important for our kids. So let's just watch this really short clip and then see if there's anything else we want to add. So what other structures did you see them doing in here?
I heard a lot of math talk. Tell me something you said while you were working with a partner. Something that you said. Yes, Carter.
Why did you choose that strategy?
Why did you choose that strategy? That's an awesome thing to ask a partner. What else did you use? Caroline. I agree with you because that's an awesome thing to say as well.
How do you know your answer is correct?
How do you know your answer is correct? Always a good one. Gemma.
This makes me think.
Okay, so something that someone else said makes you think of something. Okay, so it's kind of like that building on again. All right, so Class Dojo we're getting 2 points this time for every time I hear math talk, and I heard a lot of it this time. I heard a lot.
Okay, oops, let me go backward again. All right, so what other structures are in place? I'm going to open the breakout rooms one more time and have you just type in any other extra things in here that you noticed in this second clip, and about 4 minutes for this one. So opening the rooms now. Room 1, please stay in the main room. So room 1, what do we want to add that we saw in the second clip?
It looked like she had some motivation. She was saying something about Class Dojo, and when she heard the kids talking, using the math talks phrases that they would earn points. I don't really know what that is, but I guess it's some motivation for her kids.
Yes, yeah, she was telling the kids, I'm going to listen for this for those talk moves. And so holding them accountable.
Forget to put my mic on, like front loading the expectations of what she wanted to see, I guess, which makes sense and also reminds them what they're supposed to, keeping them on task, so to speak.
Yeah, and then she had the kids say, what did you say to your partner? So then the peers had a peer model using the phrase. I loved that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Go ahead.
You had mentioned before, you had mentioned before that in your class, the students don't have that fear of giving the wrong answer. Do you have some of those elements that you saw in that video already in place, like you front loaded, like what the expectations are and so forth? Is that one of the reasons that they feel safe doing that? Because as they get older, it gets harder to not have those students comment and so forth.
That is a very good point. And actually, T, when you mentioned, in the video that I showed you from the movie, that's high school, but yet the younger kids were talking more. But honestly, that is such a good point that as kids get older, they're just more concerned about what their peers are going to think and how they look. So I really think that it's not just the culture in your classroom. I think it has to be kind of a whole school culture that we're here to support each other. We're here about learning. But I say that all the time. And so I normally teach kindergarten, but this year, because of enrollment, I'm doing a K-1. And one of the things that I say all the time, especially to my first graders, because there's a time in the day where my kindergartners are gone and the first grader is just first graders and I, and we're not doing math. We're actually doing the Orton Gillingham lessons. And especially on Fridays when we do our tests, I'm constantly saying to the kids, we are here to learn. This is learning. We're learning. It's okay to make a mistake. You're going to learn from your mistake. So I think just hearing that over and over again, and I think maybe T, you had said that before, constantly saying the same thing, because we forget that, especially the young kids, they need to hear things over and over again before it really solidifies in their mind.
True.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers your question, but I'm just throughout the day constant. And also the fact of how you are as a teacher, if you, like, I make mistakes all the time and I laugh about them. And I ask my kids, I say to them, you're going to have to help me if you notice where I put my keys, or, just silly stuff like that. But just, we're all here to help each other, and I make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. We're human. We're going to make mistakes.
I think that goes big with when you get into like vertical alignment. I think sometimes we get into the yes, instruction's important, but even the routines, like capitalize on those routines that are coming up from K-1 and so forth, and let's just use it continuously so it never becomes like I'm worried about what my peers think. Naturally, it will, but at least you can combat that a bit with like we've been doing this for years already as a school site.
That is a good point. I think that's so true.
And the more you can take away new learning, it's just like, hey, we do this, we do these signals, we always do these signals. So now I can focus the new learning on the content and not on the structure.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. So welcome back, everybody. Just going to give you a minute. We won't have time to synthesize it, but give you a minute just to kind of read one of the other breakout rooms, so that you can see what we talked about in order to see what routines had to happen for everything to make to be such a room full of discourse. So that idea of incentives, everybody's accountable, the visuals to support learning. We saw the sentence frames were taped up onto the screen that she was using. And I think room one, we also talked about that whole idea of, hey, as kids get older, sometimes it's harder for them to collaborate and share without fear. Um, Sometimes our youngest kids are less self-conscious. But we said, hey, if this is the site culture that you can collaborate, it won't matter if they're, 7 years old or they're 10 years old, the kids leaving our campus or the kids who are just entering. If we create that as a whole school site, how powerful will it be? So I'm going to stop sharing for now. I always like it when I don't have to see a screen, I get to see people's faces because this is why we collaborate, right? Because we want to make relationships with the people that we're with. Let's go back over here. And so we're just about done. And let me just share this last little part here. So this idea of the language demands of learning math, we can listen and we can read math, but that's just us receiving information. We need to be able to produce it by expressing, communicating, by speaking, by writing. But even more, that next step that is so critical to learning of mathematics is that conversation, that back and forth. So I have to practice being a good listener because it'll help me be more clear when it's my turn to talk. And but I also need someone who's listening to me to really repeat what I say or revoice what I say so I can see how it's being received and modify, clarify my own thinking. So super critical that that happens. And I think there's a video that we won't have time to do it, to show it, but it talks about having kids do this. Hey, if they're doing this in math, this kind of discourse, can't they do it in reading? Can't they do it when they're talking about, social studies? Like, would this idea of sharing ideas and being able to defend yourself, this can happen in science. It can happen in anything. And if we do it in math, we can change the content and do it in any other subject area too, right? So here is one last quote. The one who does the talking is the one who does the learning. So I definitely got a lot from hearing you talk and listening to you. The bit.ly that I shared, which I will share one more time, has all of the, it will have the slides. I haven't linked that in there, but I will. But it has links to the Talk Moves document. It has another link to some extra materials for Discourse, like which models do you want to do first? And it kind of says, hey, go in this order, do these Talk Moves first, and then add the other ones later. And one more thing I want to direct your attention to, which you'll be able to see later, is this video. Like, you'll see them explicitly teach agree or disagree. And you'll notice that she does it with really low level content. And then she adds in that academic content. Then they can be ready to talk about more academic things and not just the low level subjects that they talked about. So before we go again, what is your what is your next step to promote math discourse? And it could even be just discourse in general with your students. I'm going to have you type that in. And thank you so much for joining me. I had so much fun talking to you about discourse with our kids.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie. Thanks, Morgan. Thank you, Erin.
Thanks.
Thank you, Tui.
Thanks.
Thank you, T.
All
Thank you. Enjoy
right.
your day. Thanks.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thanks. We'll see you soon.
After recording. Okay.
Yeah.